The desert of the forgotten planet stretched wide and empty. Dust clouds moved like ghosts over the broken land. Long shadows of ruined buildings stood silent under a pale sky. Ethan walked slowly, his boots sinking into the soft sand, his eyes watching every corner. He was a traveler, a human wandering far from home, searching for trade routes and old supplies. But on this planet, there was nothing, only silence and ruins. The outpost ahead looked dead, its walls cracked, its windows broken. Ethan pushed the rusty door open and stepped inside. The place smelled of dust and old smoke. He sighed, dropping his bag against the wall. It had been days since he last met another living soul. The loneliness weighed heavy, pressing on his chest like the hot air of the desert. He pulled out a canteen and drank slowly. The water was warm, but kept him alive. Ethan leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment. And then he heard it, a faint sound, like a whisper, soft and trembling. At first he thought it was the wind, but then it came again, a small, desperate voice. "Please, do you have food?" Ethan opened his eyes, heart beating faster. He stood quickly and scanned the broken hall. Two figures stepped out from the dark corner. They were small, thin, their clothes torn, their faces pale. Their large alien eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. One girl looked no older than 12, the other maybe 15, both of them trembling as if the wind itself might break them. Ethan froze. He had seen many kinds of aliens before, but never two children like these. Their skin was a soft blue-gray, their hair tangled and dirty. They looked sick with hunger, ribs pressing through their thin bodies. The younger girl spoke again, her voice shaking. "Please, we are hungry. We have not eaten for days." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He could walk away, he told himself. They were not his problem. But the way they looked at him, eyes wide and desperate, broke something inside him. Slowly, he opened his bag and pulled out a small packet of dried bread. The smell of food filled the air. The girls stepped closer, their hands trembling. He gave them the bread, and they grabbed it quickly, eating as if they feared it would vanish. For a long moment, Ethan just watched. The sound of their chewing was rough, fast, desperate. The older girl tried to slow down, offering half of her piece to the younger one. Her voice cracked. "Eat first, you need it more." Ethan saw the love between them, even in their hunger. He felt something stir inside him, pity and something more, responsibility. When they finished, the younger one looked up at him. "Thank you, human," she whispered, her voice soft but heavy with meaning. Ethan crouched down to their level. "What happened to you?" he asked gently. The older girl's eyes darkened. "They came," she said, voice low. "Raiders, they burned our village. They took everyone. Only we escaped." Her words hung in the air like ash. Ethan clenched his jaw. He had heard stories of raiders in this sector, slavers and killers who preyed on the weak. Looking at the two starving girls, he realized they were survivors of something far worse than hunger. They were alone, lost, and hunted. Ethan wanted to ask more, but suddenly the younger girl's eyes widened. She grabbed his arm tightly, her small fingers cold. "They will come here," she whispered, her voice shaking. "They always come. They are hunting us." Ethan's heart jumped. His eyes flicked to the broken windows. The shadows outside seemed to move differently now. The silence felt heavier. He realized he was not alone anymore, and danger was close. He stood quickly, pulling the girls behind him. His hand went to the blaster on his hip. Every instinct told him to run, to leave this planet and its problems behind. But when he looked back at the starving faces of the alien girls, he knew he could not walk away. Not now, not ever. The wind outside howled, carrying with it the sound of footsteps. Hard boots against stone, weapons clattering in the distance. The raiders were coming, and Ethan had only moments to decide: escape or stand and fight. He took a deep breath, his grip firm on the blaster. The girls huddled close, fear shining in their eyes. Ethan whispered to himself, "Looks like I'm not alone anymore." And with that, The night of danger began. The ruins trembled with the sound of footsteps. Ethan pressed his back against the wall, pulling the two alien girls closer. His blaster felt heavy in his hand, his heart beating faster than the echo of boots outside. The younger girl whispered again, "They are close," her voice a fragile thread in the cold night. Ethan peeked through a crack in the wall. Dark shapes moved in the shadows, their armor rough and sharp, faces hidden behind metal masks. Raiders, just like the girl said. They carried rifles, blades, chains, the tools of slavers. Ethan cursed under his breath. He had faced killers before, but never while protecting two starving children. The girls looked at him, waiting, desperate for him to do something. For a moment, he felt the weight of their trust crush him. He had given them bread, and now they thought he could give them safety too. Ethan swallowed hard, pushing down his fear. "Stay behind me," he whispered, "no matter what." The first raider entered the hall. His torch cut through the dark, sweeping across the broken walls. Ethan fired once, the blast tearing through the silence. The raider fell with a heavy crash, his mask broken, smoke rising from his chest. The noise brought more footsteps, louder, faster, echoing like thunder through the ruins. The girls gasped, clinging tighter to him. Ethan aimed again, firing at another shadow, moving through the doorway. The second raider dropped, but three more pushed inside. Ethan's blaster hummed, spitting fire in the dark. The hall filled with smoke and sparks. The smell of burning metal and flesh pressed into the air, choking and heavy. He pulled the girls toward a back corner, ducking behind fallen beams. The older girl tugged at his sleeve, her voice trembling. "They will not stop. They always come. They want us." Her eyes held a mix of fear and something else. Shame, as if she carried a secret she had not spoken. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow, the heat of the fight burning through his chest. He wanted to ask why the raiders hunted them, but there was no time. More shadows filled the doorway, their voices rough. "Find the brats," one growled. "The master wants them alive." Ethan's stomach turned. Alive, not dead. That meant the raiders had a plan, something darker than hunger or survival. He aimed again, blasting the wall near the raiders to send debris crashing down. Stone dust filled the air, buying him a few precious seconds. "Move," he whispered to the girls, pulling them through a narrow gap in the ruins. They stumbled into the open night, the desert stretching cold and wide. The stars above glittered like knives, the wind carrying sand across their faces. The girls breathed hard, clutching each other, their thin bodies shaking. Ethan looked back at the ruins. Flames now flickered in the windows as the raiders burned their way through. He led the girls across the sand, his boots sinking with every step. His pack felt lighter now, food nearly gone, water running low. But when he glanced at the children, hope flickering faintly in their eyes, he knew he could not abandon them. They had nothing, no one, and he had chosen to give them bread. That choice had changed everything. Hours passed before he found shelter, an old wreck of a transport ship, half buried in the dunes. Inside it smelled of rust and sand, but it was safer than the open night. He sat the girls down, giving them the last piece of dried fruit from his bag. They ate slowly this time, glancing at him with cautious trust. The younger girl leaned against him, whispering softly, "Why are you helping us?" Ethan paused, staring at the broken ceiling above. He wanted to say he didn't know, but that wasn't true. He had been alone for too long, drifting from planet to planet, never staying, never belonging. Now, these two fragile lives had become his responsibility. He could not explain it, but he felt it in his chest. If he walked away, he would never forgive himself. The older girl finally spoke, her voice sharper than her sister's. "They will keep hunting us, human," she said, her eyes fixed on him. "You should leave before they find you too." Her words cut deep, but Ethan shook his head. "Not happening," he said quietly. "You're with me now." Silence filled the wreck. The girls stared at him, disbelief softening into something warmer, something fragile. For the first time, Ethan saw a flicker of hope in their alien eyes. They had been starving, broken, hunted, but now, they had someone who stood between them and the darkness. As the desert wind howled outside, Ethan checked his blaster and whispered to himself, "This isn't just about food anymore." The night stretched long and heavy. Somewhere in the dunes, the raiders regrouped, their torches glowing like fireflies in the distance. But inside the broken wreck, two alien girls slept close to a human who refused to leave them. And for the first time in days, they dreamed not of hunger, but of survival. The wrecked ship creaked in the night wind. Ethan sat near the broken doorway, his blaster resting on his knees, his eyes scanning the endless dunes. The alien girls slept close together, their breathing soft and uneven, their thin bodies wrapped in scraps of cloth. For a moment, he almost believed they were safe, but his gut told him otherwise. Danger never stayed far from children hunted by raiders. The desert outside was alive with whispers. Not human whispers, not the voices of the girls, but the shifting calls of the night wind. Every sound made Ethan tense. Every flicker of starlight across the sand made his finger twitch near the trigger. He had fought battles before, but this was different. He was not just fighting for himself. He was protecting lives far more fragile than his own. Near dawn, the older girl stirred, her eyes half open. "You should not stay with us," she whispered weakly. "They will find you too." Ethan shook his head, his voice steady. "I already gave you food, and I already fought for you. That means I'm in this now." Her lips pressed tight, but he saw something flicker in her eyes, a spark between fear and gratitude. The younger girl woke soon after, rubbing her eyes with trembling hands. Her stomach growled loudly in the silence, making her cheeks burn. Ethan offered her the last sip of water from his canteen. She took it carefully, as if it was gold, then pushed the canteen back to him. "You need it too," she said softly. Ethan almost smiled. This child, starving and hunted, still thought of others first. They spent the morning searching the wreck. Among rusted panels and broken wires, Ethan found a few energy cells, one half-functional lamp, and a torn blanket. The girls followed him, their steps quiet but alert. The older one stopped suddenly, pressing her ear to the metal wall. "They are near," she said in a low voice. "I can feel them." Ethan frowned, scanning the dunes through the broken hull. At first he saw nothing, only sand and shadow, but then he noticed it, small glints of light moving across the desert. Not stars, but torches. The raiders were spreading out, circling like wolves around prey. He cursed under his breath. Time was running out. The girls looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. "We can hide," the younger one whispered, "but they always find us." Her words carried the weight of truth, heavy and sharp. Ethan clenched his jaw, his thoughts racing. Running would only delay the hunt. Hiding would only stretch the fear. The raiders wanted them for a reason, and that reason would never stop until they were caught or dead. Ethan crouched down to their level, speaking firmly but gently. "Listen, I won't let them take you, but I need to know why they're hunting you so badly." The older girl's hands trembled. She pulled back her sleeve, revealing a mark burned into her wrist. A glowing symbol, faint but alive, etched like fire beneath her skin. Ethan's eyes narrowed. The mark was old tech, not just random. It looked like a key, or maybe a beacon, something valuable enough to kill for. "They marked me when they came," she said, voice shaking. "I don't know why, but they want me alive." The younger girl gripped her sister's hand tightly, hiding her face. Ethan's stomach twisted. This wasn't just survival. It was a chase for power. The raiders weren't after food or slaves. They were after whatever secret burned in that mark. The sound of engines rolled across the desert. Small craft, maybe 3 or 4 cutting through the sand. Ethan snapped the lamp off, plunging the wreck into shadows. The girls froze, their breath sharp and shallow. Outside, the glow of torches drew closer, voices barking in the alien tongue of killers. Ethan raised his blaster, his voice low. "Stay down, no matter what happens." The girls pressed themselves against the wall, their eyes locked on him like he was their last shield. The wreck rattled as boots stomped onto the metal roof. Shadows slid across the cracks in the hull. The raiders had found them. Ethan fired the first shot, blasting through the hull and knocking one raider off the roof. Sparks lit the darkness. The girls gasped but stayed low. More shouts followed. The wreck filled with thunder as bullets and plasma rained down. Ethan rolled behind a panel, returning fire in short, deadly bursts. Every strike echoed like lightning, the desert itself trembling under the chaos. A grenade clattered through a gap in the wall. Ethan grabbed it, tossing it back before it exploded, the blast ripping the sand open outside. The girls screamed, their hands covering their ears. Ethan gritted his teeth, firing again, determined to buy them more time. The night was alive with smoke and fire, the wreck groaning under the assault. The raiders shouted louder, closer, their weapons breaking through the hull piece by piece. The girls clung to each other, whispering prayers in their alien tongue. Ethan's chest burned with fury. He had given them food, he had chosen to protect them, and now he knew he could not turn back. Whatever that mark meant, whatever danger it carried, he was part of it now. The shadows pressed closer, the wreck breaking apart. Ethan reloaded, his voice low and fierce. "They want you alive," he whispered to the girls, "but over my dead body." And with that, the battle in the desert truly began. The wreck shook as the raiders forced their way inside. Metal screeched, sparks burst from broken panels, and the sound of boots hammered against steel. Ethan fired into the smoke, each blast tearing through the shadows. A raider fell with a scream, but two more pushed forward, chains rattling, rifles glowing red. The older girl clutched her sister, pulling her deeper into the wreck. Her eyes were wide, but her jaw was set with quiet courage. Ethan noticed it, even in the chaos, the way she shielded the smaller one with her own body. He thought, she's a fighter too, even if she doesn't know it yet. Another blast rocked the ship, a wall collapsing inward. Sand poured through the gap, and with it came more raiders, their eyes burning behind their metal masks. Ethan ducked low, rolling across the floor, his blaster flashing bright. The wreck turned into a cage of fire and shadows, every corner echoing with screams and gunfire. One raider lunged with a blade. Ethan blocked with the butt of his blaster, shoving the attacker back into the wall. The strike sent sparks flying, and Ethan finished him with a quick shot to the chest. The girls screamed, their voices sharp against the thunder of weapons. The raiders shouted to each other in their harsh tongue. "Alive, keep them alive," one growled, pointing toward the sisters. Ethan's heart twisted with fury. They didn't care about him. He was only in the way. The girls were the prize, the hunted treasure. He pressed himself against the wall, breathing hard. His blaster was heating up, the energy cell nearly drained. He had minutes at most before it died. His eyes darted across the wreck, searching for anything, a weapon, a tool, anything to turn the fight. In the corner, half buried in sand, he saw it. A rusted fuel canister, cracked but not empty. Ethan's mind raced. If he could get the raiders close enough, one shot could turn the whole wreck into fire. It was dangerous, maybe suicidal, but better than letting the girls be captured. He shouted to them, voice sharp, "Stay down, don't move until I say." The older girl nodded quickly, pulling her sister tighter into her arms. Ethan grabbed the canister, dragging it across the floor, sparks flying as bullets slammed into the walls around him. The raiders laughed, thinking they had him cornered. Ethan slammed the canister down in the center of the wreck. Then he dove behind a broken console, aiming carefully. "Come on, come closer," he muttered under his breath. The raiders advanced, chains rattling, their boots crunching on broken glass. They raised their weapons, ready to strike. Ethan fired. The blaster bolt pierced the canister, and for one heartbeat the world froze. Then fire roared through the wreck, a blast of heat and light that swallowed everything. The explosion shook the desert, sending sand into the air like a storm. The wreck tore open, flames rising high into the night. The girls screamed as the fire rushed past, but Ethan was already moving. He grabbed them both, pulling them through a gap in the broken hull. The blast behind them sent debris crashing down, nearly crushing them. But they stumbled out into the open desert, coughing, eyes burning from smoke. Ethan looked back, the wreck blazing like a beacon. Several raiders lay dead inside, their bodies twisted in the fire. But others crawled out of the flames, wounded but alive. And more torches glowed on the horizon, reinforcements. The fight wasn't over. It had only begun. The girls clung to him, their faces streaked with ash and fear. The younger one whispered, "We will die," her voice breaking. Ethan knelt, his hands gripping their shoulders, his voice steady. "Not if I can help it," he said, his eyes locked on theirs. "You're with me now, and I don't leave people behind." For the first time, the older girl's face softened. Tears mixed with dirt on her cheeks, but she nodded. In that moment, trust was forged, not by words but by fire. The desert stretched wide around them, endless and cruel. The wreck behind them burned, marking their location for every raider in miles. But Ethan didn't run aimlessly. He had seen an old station marked on his map, a half-dead outpost buried in the sand. It might be their only chance to rest, regroup, and survive. He tightened his grip on the blaster, the heat of the fire still burning on his skin. The girls followed, their steps weak but determined. Every shadow, every gust of wind, felt like an enemy waiting to strike. But Ethan kept moving, one thought echoing in his mind. If I fall, they fall too. And that can't happen. Behind them, the raiders screamed in rage, their hunt far from over. But ahead, in the dark horizon, lay the first glimmer of hope. And Ethan knew the fight for survival had only just begun. The desert was cold under the fading stars. Ethan pushed forward, his boots sinking into the shifting sand. The alien girls followed close, their steps small, their breath shallow. The older one never let go of her sister's hand, guiding her even when her legs trembled. Ethan glanced back at them often, each time feeling the same heavy weight on his chest. They were more than survivors now. They were his responsibility. By midday, they reached the edge of an old outpost. It was half buried in the dunes, its towers broken, its gates twisted. Ethan led them inside, blaster raised, his eyes sharp for movement. But the place was silent, only the sound of the wind rushing through cracked walls. He found a corner inside a collapsed hall, where broken crates offered some cover. It was not safe, but safer than the open desert. The girls sat close together, their faces pale with exhaustion. Ethan searched his pack, but it was nearly empty now. A single ration bar, half a bottle of water, nothing more. He broke the ration bar into 3 pieces, handing one to each girl. They ate slowly this time, their eyes soft with gratitude. The younger whispered, "You always share, even when you don't have enough." Ethan only shrugged, though inside he felt a strange warmth he hadn't known in years. When they finished, Ethan asked the question that burned inside him. "Why do they want you so badly?" The older girl froze, her eyes dropping to the sand. Her sister looked at her with worry, waiting for her to speak. At last, she lifted her sleeve again, showing the glowing mark burned into her wrist. The faint lines shimmered like fire beneath her skin, alive, dangerous. "I don't know what it means," she whispered, "but they gave it to me when they destroyed our village." Ethan leaned closer, studying the mark. It was not natural, not carved by hand. It was old tech, something ancient and powerful. A brand, but also a beacon. The raiders were not just hunters, they were collectors of secrets. And this girl carried one worth killing for. Her sister clung tighter to her, whispering, "It hurts sometimes." Ethan's jaw clenched, fury burning in his chest. Children should not carry pain like this. Yet here they were, marked, hunted, and left to starve. He wanted answers, but deep down he already knew. This was bigger than survival, bigger than food or water. This was war written into the skin of a child. As the day passed, Ethan taught them small things. How to move quietly, how to listen for danger. He showed them how to use the shadows of walls to hide. The older girl listened closely, repeating his steps with surprising focus. The younger stumbled but tried again, her laughter small but real for the first time. For a brief moment, it felt almost normal, almost like family. But peace did not last. At dusk, Ethan climbed the broken tower of the outpost, scanning the horizon. Far away, in the sea of dunes, he saw it, torches, dozens of them. The raiders had regrouped, their forces larger now, spreading across the desert. They were moving straight toward the outpost, their hunt relentless. Ethan's heart sank, but he forced his breath steady. There would be no running forever. The raiders would always find them. It was only a matter of time. He climbed back down, his face hard. The girls looked at him, reading the truth in his eyes. "They're coming again," the older one said quietly. Ethan nodded. Her sister began to cry, but Ethan knelt and wiped the tears from her face. "Listen to me," he said, his voice steady. "You're stronger than you think, both of you, but we need to fight smart." The older girl clenched her fists, her small body shaking. "I don't want to run anymore," she whispered, her voice sharp with sudden courage. Ethan felt a spark of pride. Maybe the raiders had broken their village, but they had not broken her spirit. Still, he knew courage was not enough. They needed a plan, and they needed it now. He studied the outpost, its broken towers, its walls half buried in sand. It was weak, but it could serve as a trap. If he placed charges in the right spots, if he used the ruins against the raiders, he could turn this graveyard into a battlefield. It was risky, maybe hopeless, but better than running blind into the desert. That night, under the pale light of the moons, Ethan worked. He rigged broken fuel tanks, set traps with old wires and beams. The girls helped where they could, carrying scraps, holding lights, whispering warnings when they heard movement. They were afraid, but they did not leave his side. Every step they took together tied them closer. Ethan no longer saw them as strangers, but as something more, not just survivors, not just burdens, but family born out of fire. As the night deepened, the sound of engines grew louder. The raiders were near, their hunt burning through the desert like a storm. Ethan checked his blaster one last time, his eyes sharp, his jaw set. The girls stood behind him, trembling but ready. The mark on the older girl's wrist glowed faintly in the dark, a silent reminder of the secret that had brought death to their door. The outpost was no longer just a ruin. It was a battlefield waiting to be claimed. And Ethan, a lone human, was ready to make his first true stand. The night was alive with engines. The desert shook as raider bikes tore across the dunes, their lights cutting through the darkness like knives. From the broken outpost, Ethan watched them draw closer, torches glowing like a moving storm. The alien girls huddled behind a collapsed wall, their eyes wide, their hands gripping each other tight. Ethan's traps were ready, fuel tanks wired to blow, beams balanced to fall, tripwires stretched across narrow paths. But he knew it would not stop all of them, only slow them down. There were too many, far more than one human and two starving girls should ever face. Yet he stood tall, blaster ready, jaw clenched. This was not just survival anymore, this was defiance. The first raiders stormed the gates. Their shouts filled the air, harsh and cruel. A tripwire snapped, and a wall of sandbags collapsed, burying 3 of them. Ethan fired into the confusion, each shot clean, each strike sending a raider crashing to the ground. The girls gasped at the thunder of the fight, but stayed hidden as he told them. More raiders pushed through, chains swinging, rifles blazing. The outpost became fire and shadow, every corner echoing with violence. Ethan moved like a soldier, ducking, rolling, firing. The girls watched with awe, fear, and a flicker of hope. A blast shook the air as one of the fuel tanks exploded. The flames lit the night, turning raiders into silhouettes against the fire. But for every one that fell, 2 more came. They swarmed like wolves, circling, howling, refusing to stop. The older girl grabbed a broken pipe, her small hands shaking. She looked at her sister and whispered, "We cannot just hide." Before Ethan could stop her, She swung the pipe at a raider who broke through the wall. The blow staggered him, and Ethan finished him with a shot. The girl froze, her chest heaving, fear mixing with fierce pride in her eyes. Ethan pulled her back, his voice sharp but not unkind. "Brave, but don't risk yourself. You're too important." Her sister clung tighter to her, whispering, "Please don't leave me again." The mark on her wrist glowed brighter, pulsing with strange energy. Ethan noticed it even in the chaos, a faint light cutting through the smoke. The raiders saw it too, their shouts rising in excitement. "That's the one." One of them roared, "Take her alive." Ethan's heart sank. The mark was not just a symbol, it was a signal. It called to them like a beacon in the dark. They would never stop, not as long as it burned under her skin. The girls cried out as more raiders closed in, their weapons clashing against the walls. Ethan grabbed their hands, pulling them toward the back of the outpost. "We're leaving now," he growled. The outpost shook as another explosion ripped through. The night sky turned orange with fire, the ruins collapsing behind them. They ran into the dunes, the cold sand biting at their feet. The raiders followed, engines roaring, voices howling. The chase was merciless, the desert lit with fire and dust. Ethan fired behind him, dropping riders one by one. But they kept coming, relentless, unstoppable. The girls stumbled, their legs weak, but Ethan pulled them forward, refusing to slow. The younger one cried, "I can't," but he lifted her into his arms. Her small body trembled against him, her sister running at his side. Every muscle in his body burned, but he did not stop. The raiders were too close, their engines screaming in his ears. Ahead, through the storm of sand, he saw it, a dark shape rising from the desert, an abandoned space station half buried in the dunes. Its metal walls were cracked, its tower leaning, but it stood like a fortress in the night. Hope flickered in Ethan's chest. If they could reach it, maybe they had a chance. He shouted to the older girl, "Run, don't look back." Her eyes burned with fear, but she nodded, gripping the broken pipe and charging toward the station. Ethan followed, blaster firing, carrying her sister close. Bullets and plasma bolts ripped through the sand, sparks flying around them. The station loomed closer, its doors half open, rusted but wide enough to slip through. Ethan shoved the girls inside, then turned, firing at the raiders rushing across the dunes. The blasts echoed through the hollow walls, his arms shaking with exhaustion. Finally, with a heavy crash, he slammed the doors shut. The desert outside shook with engines, fists pounding against steel, voices screaming for blood. Inside the broken station, silence fell, broken only by the sound of the girls' heavy breathing. Ethan leaned against the door, sweat running down his face, his heart racing. The girls stared at him, their eyes wide with fear, but glowing faintly with trust. They had made it, at least for now. Ethan raised his blaster, the sound of boots already echoing outside. The final fight was coming. He looked at the girls, his voice low and steady. "No matter what happens, I'll keep you safe." The mark on the older girl's wrist pulsed again, brighter, stronger. The raiders screamed outside, ready to tear the station apart. And Ethan, one human, prepared to face them all. The doors of the broken station shook under the fists of raiders. Their voices roared in the night, demanding blood, demanding capture. Ethan stood in the shadows of the hall, blaster raised, sweat burning his eyes. Behind him, the two alien girls huddled close, their faces pale but steady. The mark on the older girl's wrist glowed brighter than ever. Each pulse lit the walls, a strange energy humming in the air. Ethan didn't know what it meant, but he knew it made the raiders desperate. They wanted her alive at any cost. That alone told him one truth. She was worth more than all their lives combined. The steel doors buckled, bending under the weight of explosives. Ethan pulled the girls back, guiding them deeper into the station. He spotted an old power core near the wall, still half-functional. A plan formed in his mind, dangerous, reckless, but the only chance they had. He turned to the girls, his voice calm but firm. "You listen to me, you run when I tell you, don't stop. Don't look back." The younger one clung to his arm, tears welling in her wide eyes. "But you'll die," she whispered, her voice breaking. Ethan shook his head, forcing a faint smile. "Not tonight. Not while you still need me." The doors burst open, raiders storming inside like a flood. Ethan fired, each shot echoing like thunder, bodies dropping in the smoke. The girls ducked low, holding each other. The older one shouted through the chaos, her voice fierce. "We won't leave you." Ethan's chest burned, her words cutting deep. He wanted to protect them, but they were no longer just helpless children. They were fighters too, survivors, family born in fire. He nodded once, his voice sharp, "Then stay behind me." The raiders advanced, shouting, firing, chains rattling against the walls. Ethan lured them toward the power core, every step dangerous. The mark on the girl's wrist pulsed brighter, humming louder as the battle raged. One raider lunged, trying to grab her. She swung the broken pipe with all her strength, striking him hard. He stumbled, and Ethan finished him with a clean shot. The younger girl screamed as another raider closed in. Ethan turned, firing quick, saving her with seconds to spare. But his blaster whined, the energy cell nearly drained. He had one chance left, one last move. He backed toward the power core, heart pounding. The raiders laughed, thinking they had cornered him. But Ethan knew better. He fired into the console, sparks exploding, wires screaming. The core overloaded, the walls shaking as light filled the station. "Run!" Ethan roared, pushing the girls toward the far door. They stumbled through the smoke, hands gripping each other tight. The raiders turned too late, their shouts swallowed by the roar of the explosion. The power core erupted, fire ripping through the halls, tearing metal apart. The station collapsed in flames, the desert lit brighter than the sun's. Ethan crashed to the sand outside, coughing, his body shaking. The girls fell beside him, alive, trembling but safe. They clung to him, their thin arms wrapping tight around his chest. "You saved us," the younger one whispered, tears shining in her eyes. The older one held his hand, her voice steady despite the smoke. "No, you gave us life when we had nothing." Ethan looked at them, his chest heavy but warm. He had been a wanderer, a man with no place, no family, no reason. But now, in the eyes of two alien girls, he saw something he had lost long ago. Belonging. The desert was silent again, the fire of the station burning behind them. The raiders were gone, their hunt destroyed in the blaze. The stars stretched wide above, endless and bright. Ethan pulled the girls close, his voice soft. "You're not alone anymore, not ever again." The younger one smiled for the first time, her small face glowing with hope. The older one squeezed his hand, her mark fading dimly under her skin. They had started with nothing, no food, no family, no future. But now they had each other, a human, and two starving alien girls who had found life again. Family beyond blood, bound not by birth, but by choice.